Good evening and welcome to the Anchor Bay Chamber of Commerce Meet the Candidates Forum. One note before we begin. The Anchor Bay Chamber of Commerce does not specifically endorse any candidate appearing here this evening. The views and opinions of the candidates are not necessarily the views and opinions of the Anchor Bay Chamber of Commerce. My name is Eric Hademak and I will be moderating this forum on behalf of the Chamber this evening. Tonight we'll be hosting 5 sessions for elections affecting the Anchor Bay area. Our first session this evening is for the Anchor Bay School District Board of Education members. There are 2 6-year terms, and we have 5 candidates running. Now for some basic ground rules. Each candidate for these races were given an opportunity to appear here this evening. Each candidate will be allowed 3-minute introduction and opening statements. Each candidate will then be asked 2 questions relevant to the election and allowed 2 minutes to respond. At the end of the session, each candidate will be permitted to give a 1-minute summary of their position. The sequence for opening remarks will start in alphabetical order and rotate from there. So let's begin. We have with us tonight incumbent Patrick Green and opponents Michael Haynes, Christopher Stevens, Dominic Ventinelli, and Laren Wentworth. Thank you, candidates, for being here this evening. So, going in alphabetical order by last name, Patrick, you have 3 minutes for your opening statement.
Thanks, Eric. First off, I want to thank everyone for tuning into the broadcast. School board elections are particularly important to ensure that our children's educational experience is a safe one and prepares them for college, a career in the trades, or whatever they desire to pursue after high school. Additionally, a strong school district increases property values, which is certainly important to all of us. My name is Patrick Green. For those of you that don't know me, let me introduce myself. I've been on the Board of Education for 4 years. I currently serve as the Vice President of the Board of Education and chair the Policies Committee and am a member of the Finance Committee. I've been a resident for almost 20 years in New Baltimore. I have 2 kids that attended Anchor Bay schools from pre-K through graduation. 1 graduate in 17, 1 in 21. Currently, I'm self-employed consultant to hospitals to help them improve non-clinical operations such as food, parking, safety, security, all those other fun things that hospitals don't want to deal with. Additionally, I also collaborate with school districts to help them with their transportation issues. I also manage a portfolio of real estate properties, and I'm also a reserve police officer in the city of New Baltimore as well as a Marine deputy in St. Clair County. Needless to say, I'm not home much. Most recently, I was also appointed to the Michigan School Safety and Mental Health Commission. This commission is tasked with protecting students and finding ways to support students' mental health. The past 4 years have been filled with trials and tribulations, COVID, masking requirements, hiring of a new superintendent, arming of security officers in schools. I am and I will continue to be a proponent of keeping students safe in school, and the learning loss that's happened over the past 2.5 years is substantial, and I focus my efforts daily on correcting that. July of 2021, we hired a new superintendent. The staff, teachers, and parents have been elated and very receptive to that. Since being elected 4 years ago, I have directed my efforts into building better relationships with our teachers, and for the second election season in a row, I have been endorsed by the Anchor Bay Education Association. One issue that I'll tackle is supporting of the armed security guards in our schools. We can no longer protect our schools with thoughts and prayers. We have to be our own first responders. Police are 4 to 6 minutes out. We have to protect ourselves and our students in the schools. Next, the district has a no mill increase. It's a $170 million increase, no tax bond that's going to be on the November ballot. A strategic plan was put together that involved over 1,000 people. This bond is necessary to maintain and upgrade our schools, add technology, and security. Please support this important bond in November. In summary, my votes and actions over the past 4 years clearly speak to my dedication as this district. I have one job as a school member, to provide a happy and safe environment for our students.
Thank you, Patrick. Michael, you have 3 minutes for your opening remarks.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me here tonight. My name is Michael Haynes, and I'm running for the Anchor Bay School Board. I've got a child in the school district now, and our plan is to have him be here for about a decade or so, which is the #1 reason why I'm running for the board. But let me tell you about some of the other reasons why you should vote for me. Education has been a cornerstone in my life. My mother was a public elementary school teacher. I remember walking around the neighborhood, carrying a sign when I was young, trying to get people to vote for a millage that would help our rec center be more robust. My sister is a public school social worker, so I talk to her almost daily about the struggles that she faces trying to help students develop their mental health. My wife is also a teacher. She was a teacher for 15 years before becoming a director of an early childhood center. And over the last few years, we shared in the challenges and the difficult decisions that she had to make running a school during the pandemic. I've even spent some time in the trenches myself. I was a substitute teacher for a while. And now I coach my child's T-ball team, where I teach kids the importance of teamwork, sportsmanship, and which hand they put their glove on. And that's surprisingly difficult, you'd be surprised. I also teach at Oakland University, where I teach employee benefits to undergraduate students. That's where I try to tell 20-year-olds that it's really important to save for retirement before they're 70. I also went to Eastern Michigan University, which is one of the primary teacher education schools in the region. So I understand what it takes to become a teacher, to deal with the daily things of a teacher's life, that balance between classroom management and content delivery. I've been living around teachers and staff my entire life, and because of that, I sympathize with their daily struggles. I understand why the profession is hemorrhaging quality teachers every day, and why there's been a 60% decline in teachers coming out of Michigan colleges like Eastern and Oakland over the past decade. I understand public education and the challenges that we face ahead with rising inflation, with an unstable political arena in Washington and Lansing, and constant concerns about physical and financial security. I'll use that knowledge and my unique experience and skills to make sure that our school board and our administrators are ready to face those challenges. But let's talk about those unique skills for a second. Right now, we've got board members with a slew of perspectives: labor, health, finance, safety. But what we're missing is a legal mind and someone who's focused on risk management and transparency within the district. That's where my skills and experience as a lawyer and as an organizational development expert come into play. I've served on civic boards. I've helped lead organizations like professional organizations, nonprofit groups, city commissions. And I've spent years writing and enforcing and negotiating business contracts. I've been part of negotiation teams for labor organization and labor agreements, and even helped represent school employees in grievance arbitration with their school administrators. Today in my day job, I work to make global companies stronger through training, and I also analyze the problems that they face and work to find practical solutions. All these things will help me ensure that the administration operates efficiently, responsibly, and with low legal risk. All things that will save us financial resources in the long run. And I look forward to speaking with the rest of you tonight. And again, my name is Michael Haynes, and I'm running for the Anchor Bay School Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Christopher, you have 3 minutes for your opening remarks.
Hello, thank you, and my name is Christopher Stevens. I want to appreciate everyone allowing me to speak today and having us all here on this panel. I am unique in the fact that I believe I am one of the newest, freshest candidates. This is my first year in Anchor Bay. I have 2 sons, 7 and 4, and my interest here is to ensure that not only their education and their futures are secured, but also all of the children within the district. As far as my qualifications, while I am not a teacher, and nor do I have a background in education, I am always seeking new information and making sure that I educate myself on not just the issues within my area, but issues that will affect the future of education for my children. As far as my experience within my employment, I am an MCCA PIP adjuster. I do work within high volume claims, and I am often responsible for making sure that management of those claims is handled within Michigan no-fault law. Otherwise, I do want to thank you again for your time and my remarks.
Thank you, Christopher. Dominic, you have 3 minutes for your opening remarks.
Thank you. By the way, it is Dominic Venditelli. Told you I was going to correct you. Thank you for everyone who's allowed me to come and speak here today. Let me adjust this microphone. Good afternoon. My name is Dominic Venditelli, as we've already made a joke about. I'm running for school board for Anchor Bay School District. A little bit about me. I'm from a family of educators. My mother was a teacher in Detroit. She's a special ed teacher. She taught there for 30 years. My brother is an English teacher, and my wife is an elementary education teacher for a nearby school district. In my past time, I've been a football coach and an academic tutor. I helped kids learn fundamentals for their footwork, and I also taught subjects and helping students with subjects anywhere between basic math and calculus. In my daytime, I am a father, an environmental engineer, and a small business owner. The reason for me running for school board is simple. I care about our kids. We owe it to our next generation to ensure that we're doing everything we can to provide a safe, stable environment for their learning and growth, which is why I'm glad to have been able to express my approval and public comment during the August 31st board meeting, whereby the board voted nearly unanimously to allow armed security to protect our schools. Though a great deterrence, I believe a good guy with a gun is the absolute last line of defense. If we want to stop school shootings from happening, and I believe we can, we need to address the mental health crisis currently occurring in our youth. Since lockdowns, national surveys from the CDC have shown that almost half of students have feelings of prolonged sadness and hopelessness, and about 1 in 5 has seriously considered suicide. That is not a light fact. That's a very serious issue that we need to address. Students are more isolated, prone to sedentary lifestyles, and compulsively using technology more than ever before. The good news is we can do something about this. Studies have shown students who feel a sense of closeness to family, friends, and community have their feelings of hopelessness decreased by half. And epidemiology standards, for which I am accredited from the part of what my degree is, environmental health and safety, we learn epidemiology. That's a very good start. My time in public school, I have personally seen fellow classmates come out of depression after joining sports like football or cross country. I believe that team sports are a great avenue for getting kids out of a rut because it teaches them 3 things. That is the ability to negotiate, to work with others, to compromise, as well as a couple others like building camaraderie. Anchor Bay School District is already doing a lot to address the issue of mental health, like, for example, the P2 Positivity Project, which teaches students to try to find ways to be grateful for things that matter, as well as finding ways to appreciate other people. Further, the 38% of the $2.8 million ESSER 3 grant awarded to Anchor Bay will be allocated to provide additional mental wellness support staff for students. Well, this is a great start. Again, the issue is complex and ongoing. As a school board member, I plan to carry the torch to address these issues as well as many others. If you'd like to know more about me and my campaign and my platform, the values that I adhere to, I'd encourage you to please visit DominicForSchoolBoard.com. Again, that is DominicForSchoolBoard.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dominic. And Laren, you have 3 minutes for your opening remarks.
My name is Laren Wentworth, and my wife and I, Jen, we've lived in this school district for the last 13 years. We've raised our kids in this school district. I have a sophomore at the high school and a 6th grader at middle school north. And, you know, I believe in this school district. I've had the opportunity to work alongside many of the staff, many of the teachers, in several volunteer opportunities. And so I believe in the success of our school district, and I think we have some incredible leaders in place. And the reality is, for me, my involvement with the school district didn't start with this election. About 10 years ago, I sat down with the principal of McConn's Elementary and began to assess some of the needs that McConn's had. And one of the biggest things that came to light was the fact that many students were receiving free and reduced lunch and breakfast, but were struggling with food insecurity over the weekend. And so I put together a team of leaders, and we launched the Feed the Bay Backpack program. And that first spring, we started with 35 bags every single weekend during the school year. But it's been amazing to watch our community come together to see this program grow. We're at every school in the school district. This current school year, we've actually branched out to the New Haven School District, and we're sending home almost 8,000 bags every school year to the Anchor Bay School District and now New Haven. But that wasn't it. That many of those same team members, we worked with McConn's Elementary and launched the McConn's Mentor Program. Really, it was just a program to allow adults from our community to encourage and support students that were at risk at McConn's Elementary. And many of those same leaders, we launched the Leadership Academy at Middle School North and Middle School South. And it was just an opportunity for us to invest in that next generation, to teach leadership skills, to teach many of the skills that we know that they're going to need as adults. And so it's been a privilege for me to be involved in these things. And the reality for all the things that I've been involved in over the years, very little of it has benefited my own kids. The reality is I believe in this community. I love this school district, and I have a track record of investment in the lives of these students and the staff. And so my hope is that as a member of the Anchor Bay School District is to make sure that our students have a safe environment in which they can learn and grow and thrive, to make sure that our teachers, that they have the resources they need, that they feel supported in what they're doing, what they do best, and what they're passionate about, and that we provide the right kind of environment for our families as well to raise their children. And so I'd appreciate your vote and support for Anchor Bay School Board.
Thank you, Laren. Now, each Board of Education candidate will have an opportunity to answer 2 questions provided by the Chamber. Candidates, you will have 2 minutes to answer each question. So going in opposite direction this time, Laren, you're up first. Laren, what unique skills and experience do you bring to the district?
I believe my leadership in my role, I'm a pastor in the community, and the people that I brought around me to even lead some of the organizations, the Backpack Program, the McCont's Mentor Program. I'm not the brightest in the room. I'm certainly not the most skilled in the room, but I'm really good at finding the right people, putting me in the right seats on the bus to make sure that we're headed in the right direction. And so for me, it's just the leadership ability that I've developed over the years in my role, and look forward to continuing that as part of the school board.
Thank you, Laren. Dominic, what unique skills and experience do you bring to the district?
Thank you for the question. So I guess let me start. I always give this sort of thing when I'm giving resumes. My degree is environmental health and safety. When I that's an all-encompassing epidemiology, public health, sanitation, that sort of thing. As soon as I graduated from college, the first job I had was an industrial potable, non-potable water industrial health and safety consultant. So I'd go through large-scale industrial facilities, I map out their entire potable and non-potable water system, and match out where the cross-connection could occur, where somebody could get poisoned by bad water. I would use that knowledge as well as an industrial engineer, where I work in large-scale industrial facilities to see if there's any sort of risk factors that might pollute the environment or pollute the people who work for us. Think for factors, some cases of chemical damage that could occur due to improper containment, as well as, I'm also a real estate investor. I own rental properties. I understand that there are certain CapEx expenditures that if we wait too long to fix, like for example, a bad roof could cause damages to trusses and waste money. Me personally, I've experienced with that a lot. In addition, I understand that there's been some problems in the past with Anchor Bay School Board where the school district where they have not maintained some of the buildings as well as they should have, and that has led to problems with students being safe as well as possible damage that could have been mitigated with proper maintenance. I guess I'll leave it there. So thank you.
Thank you, Dominic. Moving on to Christopher, same question. What unique skills and experience do you bring to the school district?
Thank you for that. So while I do not have a background in education, I do pride myself on a very eclectic encyclopedic knowledge and a thirst for knowledge in odd places. With that being said, I am not ashamed to admit when I don't know something, and I am not ashamed to seek the knowledge of experts. So if there were issues that were present that I would need to decide on, if there was information that I didn't have, I would not be afraid to seek that information from experts that know better than I would.
Thank you, Christopher. Michael, same question. What unique skills and experience do you bring to the district?
So I talked a little bit about my unique experience as a lawyer and as a organizational expert. So I want to talk about what I can bring to the district, and what that is trust. I've spoken to a lot of teachers and parents, more in the last few weeks than ever, but throughout the time here, and they all say the same thing. They were burned by the last administration. They were burned by the last board before all that turnover. They don't trust what's happening now in the district, even as the current board and superintendent are working hard to greatly improve that transparency. The long-term lack of trust has impacted the bond issue, which I think we should all vote for. People aren't convinced that what the district says is going to happen is actually what's going to happen. We have to build back that trust. The board and the district administration have to work hard to reconstruct what the previous group destroyed. The district has done a great job at increasing transparency, and I want to do more for that. They've sent out fast emails and notifications to parents when incidents have happened. They've done a great job at explaining decisions that have happened and giving resources to parents and faculty to be able to know how they can help. It certainly made me feel more reassured as a parent to know what's going on, but we need to do more of that. However, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. The Fortis Armed Guard contract, which naturally was a popular issue, a lot of us appreciate the ability to have those guards come in, but it doesn't match, the contract doesn't match what Fortis and the board said. There's no requirement in the contract for Fortis to hire employees with certain backgrounds or experience. There's no requirement for Fortis to let Anchor Bay vet these guards before they're brought in. Yet, that was the promises made to the public by the company and the current board. I've actually got the contract right here. It's not in there. But I'm not saying this here to chastise the board or Fortis. I'm saying you need a lawyer. You need someone of my skills to sit there and be able to read the contract, collaboratively talk to everybody and say, hey, is everything in here that we want? Is this gonna protect the kids the way we want? It doesn't matter if it's a food vendor, if it's something related to who's gonna work on the buses, or something as serious as armed guards. We need someone like me with a legal mind to think about that way. And it's all about building trust. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And finally, Patrick, same question. What unique skills and experience do you bring to the district?
Thanks, Eric. Certainly, I've been identified in my entire career as a leader, and I'm actually generally a leader among leaders. I've had C-suite positions before where I'm leading other salaried managers and teams. My contract negotiations with with every type of union you can think of through my career, including Teamsters in New York City, which was an interesting experience and is probably appropriate for another venue. My 4 years on the board have taught me how to lead without authority. As a board member, you only have one employee, and that is the superintendent of the district. So you have to empower and support that superintendent in his role to lead the district. I certainly don't have any more than that one, and that certainly makes it a challenge when you're trying to manage things, and that's how my career goes, especially as a consultant. I can come in and make recommendations, but I don't have the teeth or the leverage to have any type of backup on anything other than my experience and my recommendations and those things. Throughout my career, I've also developed some financial experience that is probably short of being a CPA in terms of profit and losses and organizing budgets. The district's budget's about $66 million, give or take. I think it might be 64 this year or a little higher because of COVID funds. I have unique experiences as a board member, as a police officer, and a parent in the district. And I already referenced my appointment to the School Safety and Mental Health Commission. I appreciate Dominic in your opening talking about suicide and what we can do to take care of our students. Those are the reasons I was appointed to this commission, and we don't meet until the end of October. It's a 2-year appointment, and I'm really looking forward to my leadership on that committee and bringing those things back to Anchor Bay.
Thank you, Patrick. Next question, Michael, we'll start with you. Safety is a big concern for our children. The district recently moved forward with hiring armed guards in the schools. What are your thoughts on this?
So, yep, it's important for microphones. So I talked a little bit about that already, which is sort of how the process works for things like that, and being able to make sure that we're able to protect the kids exactly the way we intend to with our contracts with our vendor partners. But I think the district's done a lot already to handle physical safety of our students. They're increasing the building structural safety features, ordering door barriers, bringing in the hired armed guards, and they're training teachers and staff to identify and respond to emergencies. But I think it's important to think of student safety as more than just physical, right? The reason we need great people like Laren to do these Feed the Bay is because we have income security and food security issues in our community, right? We're facing high inflation, we're facing job issues, right, within our community. And so that's gonna impact the schools, right? The cost of supplies is going up. The cost of being able to offer well-rounded educational experiences, both from the actual in the classroom to being able to go outside and field trips and do other things. The cost is rising. So mental health, the ability to join things like, the bands, for example. The bands just won their highest award ever as in the marching band at a competition last week. That's a huge, huge milestone, and that helps increase mental health because you belong to something. We have to think about mental health as part of safety. We have to think about income, food, all that sort of thing, right? So we're doing a lot as a district already to offer these things for students, to cover them with opportunities, right? We have to make sure we support those things. We have to make sure the teachers have the resources, staff have the resources to continue those, especially the things that are working well. And we have to make sure that we find ways to work with people in our community, like Feed the Bay, our police officers, our other groups, to make sure that as a community, we can move forward and make everybody safe, both as a complete person, not just physical safety, but mental health and income security, everything else that belongs to them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael. Christopher, same question. Safety is a big concern for our children. The district recently moved forward with hiring armed guards for the schools. What are your thoughts on this?
Thank you. So along with the security measures in the bond coming up, with the improvements to security, the door locks, the surveillance, I do think that with gun reform being a much larger scale nationwide discussion, I think it is important that the guards be placed in schools at this time, as this is an ongoing conversation. It's not something that we will likely even see an end to this conversation in the next decade. I do think that it is important to have these guards in schools because you don't know what someone might do in situations where mental health has become an issue. You don't know, with the rise in inflation, what crime may be like and what that may result in our schools. So I do think it is important that, and I would support to have armed security guards within our schools.
Thank you, Christopher. Next person, Dominic, same question. Safety is a big concern for our children. The district recently moved forward with hiring armed guards in the schools. What are your thoughts on this?
Thank you, Eric. That is a very good question. When I hear this, it kind of brings me back to the August 31st board meeting, and I remember Philip Jankowski, the current superintendent, saying something that really kind of stuck with me, and that is that, well, I guess let me paint the scene a little bit. Channel 2, 4, and 7 were there. They were probably the most of the people in the room that day. It was very noticeable that they were. There was cameras and this big endeavor. One of the things Philip Jankowski said was, I'd rather have the news here today for this decision rather than being here because of a school shooting. And that's something that deeply resonates with me. It deeply resonates with people in my community, in our community, and I'm sure especially after what happened with Oxford recently. I guess one of the things that also comes to me is you wouldn't expect to be able to assault a courthouse. And that's because you would expect normally that there are armed guards there. And that's one of the greatest things about having deterrence, is that just by having somebody present who could take out a person with bad intentions is something that could save lives just all by itself. But that's not the only thing that we should do. I think the door lockers, as we've sort of talked about, is just a little notch you put in the bottom of the door, and you could drive a semi-truck into the door, and chances are the door might actually win that. The shooter's not going to be able to get in there because crime statistics kind of show that shooters are looking more towards the easy targets. So making it difficult for them, making them frustrated, or improve your chances of surviving dramatically. We need to teach teachers the Alice method. For brevity, the method is essentially run, hide, fight. If you can run, you get out. If you can hide, do that. If you can't do anything and he comes and finds you, you fight for your life, because that's what it is. It is a fight for your life. Crime statistics show that shooters typically shoot places where that they have been to in the past, like commercial buildings or schools. So we need to reach people who are from that community to stop them from being disaffected and intervene on their behalf before they make bad decisions for everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you, Dominic. Laren, safety is a big concern for our children. The district recently moved forward with hiring armed guards in our schools. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm certainly in support of bringing in Fortis and their officers for protection for our students. I recently had a conversation with the president of French Associates, who is the architecture company that has been involved in this process with the bond and making sure that our schools are safe. And his comment to me was, this is one of the things that keeps him up at night, making sure that not just Anchor Bay schools, but all the schools that they build are safe, that our kids feel secure, that there's not this risk. And he said there's nothing we can do to completely eliminate the risk. But in that conversation, we talked about how Fortis is a great step in the process. And so it does take training of students, training of staff to make sure that they know the proper procedures in case of an emergency. But we have to do everything we can to keep our students safe. In fact, I was over at Lighthouse Elementary a couple days ago for a parent panel, and the officer from Fortis at Lighthouse, Mr. Quinn, all the other teachers were and staff, some of the parents, they were talking about how much Officer Quinn is just become part of that community. He's become a friend to the students. He's out there patrolling when the students are out on recess, just kind of walking around, but he's really become almost another teacher, another helper in that school. And so I love that, knowing that he's not seen as this big, scary security officer. He's seen as part of the school, and that those kids know that they're safe when they go out to play to recess or anything else that they have going on.
Thank you, Laren. And Patrick, safety is a big concern for our children. The district recently moved forward with hiring armed guards in our schools. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, Eric, as I already referenced, as a board member, I have one job. It's to provide a safe and secure environment, healthy environment for my students, and hire the most competent and qualified staff and teachers to do that. Period. That's in one long sentence. That's what the job is as a board member. And this process with Fortis started. I heard about the situation that we were looking at bringing in some armed guards back in May. It was discussed at a finance meeting or somewhere along the way that I heard about it. And again, it wasn't a knee-jerk reaction. Certainly, there's been school shootings that have happened further away, but then suddenly they weren't so far away. They were just 30 miles away. And our parents, our teachers, everyone demanded that we do something. And so did I as a board member. We need to keep our schools safe. Was it a vote that I really wanted to make? No, absolutely not. Do I want to have guns in our schools? No. But I want to protect my kids at the same time. So after touring the district and talking to many teachers and parents and even some students that were older or younger that I know in the district, I felt like hiring Fortis was the right way to go. It gave us armed protection in the schools. And is it the perfect solution? No, I won't tell you it is. Is it the end-all solution? Definitely not. And it's constantly evolving, and what we're looking to do to possibly put in local law enforcement officers into our schools when that opportunity becomes available. At this point, Fortis, as was already mentioned, these guys are reading books in the classes. They're actually involved in situations that are transpiring, safety-wise around the district. And I think it's great to have them in the schools, and so far they've been a welcome addition.
Thank you, Patrick. So now, as quickly as we began, it's time to end this evening. So let's finish with 1-minute closing statements. Christopher, we'll start with you. Please finish with your 1-minute closing.
As someone who is running for the first time, I do want to thank everyone for this opportunity. And while I may not have experience in running for school board, what I do pride myself on is my ability to listen, to hear the needs of other parents, to hear the needs of students, and to hear the needs of teachers. They are responsible for educating our children, and I think that we should take more opportunity to listen to the feedback from teachers and what they need from this school district.
Thank you, Christopher. Dominic, please finish with your 1-minute closing.
Thank you. I'd just like to start my closing by acknowledging that, we're all relatively new. This is my first time running for public office. Everyone here besides Mr. Green is brand new to the idea of running for school board. I think it's great that we all care about our kids. I do. I have a 1-year-old son, and I'm looking forward to having a school district that is well refined in an environment that helps them thrive. In addition, one of the issues that I would like to have brought up today was standards-based grading. It's a great way to get students to understand the context of where they might be lacking. A normal grading scale is just an average at the end. Standards-based grading breaks up the subject into subcategories, so the student might understand better where they might be lacking. The parents can help their kid if they see that they're lacking, and teachers can provide a lesson plan that's more specific to the needs of their classroom. I'd like to talk about that more, but I will probably be seeing a lot of you as I hand out flyers and whatnot. Thank you.
Thank you, Dominic. Laren, please finish with your 1-minute closing.
For me, I'm a dad in the school district, and I certainly want the best for my kids, but I think I've got a proven track record that shows that I want the best for our entire district. And so I think that's why the Anchor Bay Educators Association has supported me as one of their candidates. And so for me, I look forward to the opportunity to serve, to be used wherever I'm needed, just even outside of our board meetings, just because I love this district, I love its staff, and certainly believe in its future.
Thank you, Laren. Patrick, please finish with your 1-minute closing.
Thanks, Eric. After 4 years on the board, I certainly have learned a lot. It was my first political foray as well. I, as well as Laren, are supported by the ABEA, our teachers union, and that's a true honor for me. What does it take to be a good school board member? Let's start with attendance at meetings. I'm at every meeting, and I can tell you folks up here aren't at every meeting. So those that sit up here and talk about what they think they need to change and how things need to go probably need to start coming to some meetings before they're going to throw those out. Also, we do have an attorney in the district. We actually have 3 attorneys that represent us that are outside counsel. We do not have inside counsel. So quite honestly, I'm not sure if we really need another attorney on the board. Thanks.
Thank you, Patrick. Michael, please finish with your 1-minute closing.
The next 5. Man, at least I talk loud enough, you probably could hear me anyway. School funding is unpredictable, especially in an intense political situation, and all the help we got during COVID is gone or it's on its way out. We're about to be on our own in an uncertain economic period. How we act now is going to determine how we can act later. Your decision as voters this election is simple. It's who to decide, the 2 of us standing up here, that is best equipped to face those challenges that come ahead. I've got the experience and skills to make sure that our district stays strong in the challenges we face ahead as an organization. I understand what the teachers and staff are dealing with every day, and I'll keep talking to them about what they need to do, what they need to be successful. I love to chat with you about your concerns. You can find me on my website at Haynes for AB, that's F-O-R, Haynes for AB. I've got a link to my YouTube channel where I share my stances, and I love to talk with you as we go. Please vote for me, Michael Haynes, and I appreciate being here tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael. This concludes session number 1. Thank you all the candidates for attending this evening, and please remember to vote on November 8th. Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Anchor Bay Chamber of Commerce Meet the Candidates Forum. One note before we begin. The Anchor Bay Chamber of Commerce does not specifically endorse any candidate appearing here this evening. The views and opinions of the candidates are not necessarily the views and opinions of the Anchor Bay Chamber of Commerce. My name's Eric Hademak and I'm moderating this forum on behalf of the Chamber this evening. Tonight we're hosting 5 sessions for elections affecting the Anchor Bay area. Our second session this evening is for Chesterfield Township Supervisor. There is 1 partial term available and we have 2 candidates running. Some basic ground rules. Each candidate for these races were given the opportunity to appear here tonight. Each candidate is allowed a 3-minute introduction and opening statement. Each candidate will then be asked 2 questions relevant to the election and allowed 2 minutes to respond. At the end of each session, each candidate will be permitted to give a 1-minute summary of their position. The sequence for opening remarks will start in alphabetical order and rotate from there. With us tonight, we have incumbent Brad Kirsten and opponent John Spica. Candidates, thank you for joining us this evening. So going in alphabetical order by last name, let's begin. Brad, you have 3 minutes for your opening remarks.
Good evening, everyone, and I appreciate the opportunity here to address not only the Anchor Bay Chamber, but also the residents of Chesterfield Township. A little bit about myself. My name is Brad Kirsten. I live at 53300 Shawn Drive here in Chesterfield Township. Prior to being appointed to the Township Supervisor in July 2021, I was a police officer here in Chesterfield Township, and I was hired as a part-time police officer in 1989, and at the appointment level, time of appointment, I retired as the Public Safety Director. I rose through the ranks of the police department, and I accomplished and fulfilled every role and rank within the police department. I am a graduate of K-PAC High School. I went to Macomb Community College, also Baker College, and finalized my education at the Eastern Michigan University, completed with a master's degree in public safety leadership. As again, I spent 33 years here in the township, and as the last few years as the police chief public safety director. I was appointed to several boards and commissions, both at the state level and here in Macomb County. Some of those roles, one was a past president of the Macomb County Chiefs of Police, and also the Southeast Michigan Chiefs of Police. As I said, I was appointed in July unanimously by the existing board at the time when Supervisor Dan Accavetti was offered an opportunity in Candace Miller's administration. I have 3 children. I am divorced. 3 children. All 3 are professional individuals. I have 2 grandchildren, and I live with my girlfriend of 10 years, and she has 2 children. I come from a large family. There's 16 immediate siblings. I have over 140 immediate family members, nieces, nephews, and relatives. I had the unique opportunity and position when becoming a supervisor of seeing several opportunities in the township that I had experienced, both in and out of the internal workings of the township, and then what the community needed, what I thought needed, and I could enhance parts of. I want to thank Dan Accavetti, the previous supervisor, for setting this township in a new course and new direction. When he came in, he initiated several projects. I picked up on those projects, but I also initiated several of my own. A lot of those are technology-based, streamlining processes internally, and trying to get the largest bang for our buck here in Chesterfield Township, and that is how I've been administering this supervisor's role for the past 15 months and will continue to do so if elected. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. John, you have 3 minutes for your opening remarks.
Good evening, everyone. I'm John Spica, and I am running for supervisor in Chesterfield Township. I'd like to thank the Anchor Bay Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event, Meet the Candidates Forum. I think this is a great way for the residents to start familiarizing themselves with the candidates running for office and to hear for themselves where each candidate stands on the issues. I would also like to thank everyone in the audience for attending the forum and taking time out of your evening to listen to the candidates. We are 36 days away from one of the most important elections this township has seen in a very long time. In November, Chesterfield Township will be on the ballot. I'd like to start off by saying I live in Chesterfield, in the township. My wife and I both love it here and everything that Chesterfield has to offer. I am a proud tax-paying resident in this township. My opponent, the board-appointed supervisor, doesn't own a home in Chesterfield and doesn't pay property taxes on a home here either. My opponent, the board-appointed supervisor, uses a friend's address in Chesterfield to meet a requirement in order to run in the township for the supervisor's position. My opponent's real address is in Emmett Township with a 100% homestead on that address. Ask yourself if you really want a supervisor in the township that has no skin in the game, making important decisions for all of us. A perfect example is the board-appointed supervisor's decision on June 14 of 22 to purchase a $13 million bond, with $8 million of that bond was a free sewer line on 26 Mile Road that benefited the wealthy and well-connected. Taxpayers are going to foot the bill, not the developers. Water and sewer rates are going to go up in the township to cover the bond payments. Ask yourself why the passage of the $13 million bond issue wasn't on the front page of The Voice the following week. In the Speaker administration, it will be Chesterfield first. I will always put the residents in the township first, no matter what. I believe in democracy. My opponent is an autocrat. I am fiscally responsible. My opponent can't balance a budget. Currently, the township is operating in a negative operating budget deficit of over $2 million. I believe in transparency. My opponent doesn't. The cell tower is up and constructed where originally planned, and the board-appointed supervisor said nothing to the residents. I back the blue and will always support our men and women in blue to ensure they have the resources to keep our community safe. I am skilled in budgeting, problem solving, and negotiating. I lead by example. A true leader leads by example. Genuine leaders don't take outside direction or let themselves be influenced by others. Leadership is an ability a person has or doesn't have. I have the skill sets needed to turn this township around, and this is why I am running for supervisor. I love this township, and residents deserve better than we currently have. Speak up for supervisor. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Each candidate will now have an opportunity to answer 2 questions provided by the chamber. Candidates, you will have 2 minutes to reply to each question. So going in opposite direction this time, John, what are your plans to make Chesterfield a more appealing place to visit and shop?
Thank you for that question. The first thing that I would do to make Chesterfield a more appealing place to shop and to the residents would be I would clean up the blight in the area. There are several areas in Chesterfield that need immediate attention and that need to be cleaned up. The other thing that I would definitely do to make Chesterfield more attractive is we need to have more things here in Chesterfield to attract young families, especially our youth. So I would bring in and work on bringing in things for younger people, like a youth center that we could work on, and just bring other things in that would be attractive and that would bring families in and young families into the township. But the first thing that we need to do is, before any of that could be done, I mean, you know, we have to get our house in order, and it's all going to take money. So it's going to boil down to, you know, fiscal responsibility and priorities. But the start off would be cleaning up the blight in the township and working from there. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Brad, same question. What are your plans to make Chesterfield a more appealing place to visit and shop?
So these aren't plans, these are projects that are already underway. So we've immediately instituted an initiative in the township to clean up several areas. One of them being the shopping cart, so that we were laying around at the bus stops and the smart bus stops. We initiated a ordinance, drafted that, worked with the local retailers to clean those up, along with the corridors on 23 Mile and 994. We immediately reached out to state and county officials, sought permission to clean up their property and the right-of-ways of the property. You can see this most dramatically on 23 Mile and 994. Currently in negotiations with MDOT. We are working on the manicured lawn contract for both the 23-mile and I-94 corridor, and then along with 23-mile road, there's a streetscape that we're working on if you look directly across from the McDonald's. The Gratiot corridor is, there's several businesses that we're working with to clean up and make presentable. And along with that, the growth of the township right now on the younger side, that is exactly where a lot of our development is taking place. We have several developments that are in the pipeline, residential homes, residential settings that are only going to enhance this community as we move forward. Attracting residents and residential development is not a problem that this community is seeing, and we're more on the management side of how we're going to approach that and handle it moving forward. Again, the financial plan of this township, we're not in jeopardy. We're a very stable, well-funded community, and we'll use our fund balances appropriately to serve the residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. So next question is to you, Brad. Since the pandemic, there has been a need for additional outdoor activities in a more walkable community. How do you see Chesterfield evolving over the next few years to meet these needs?
Thanks, sir. And again, one of the projects initiated almost immediately is we've secured several parcels of property throughout the township. Township currently has over 500 acres of township-owned property that we look to expand and build on. Several of them, the Salt River Greenway, the Salt River Development, the Salt River Park, Brandenburg Park, Pollard Park, Connie Bowles Park at 24 Mile Road. All of these township-owned properties, we are working with engineers, design developers, along internal and external staff to develop those parks in a more expeditious fashion. Again, these were parks that have been stagnant for many years, and we're trying to develop them with other partnerships, DNR, NOAA, and along with the sidewalks and the path connectivity to those, we have a pathway plan. The pathway plan has been in development for a couple of years, and it connects all of those parcels that I just spoke to with a pathway and allow connectivity to each one of those. There is a financial side to that, and again, on that side, we're seeking grants, participation from outside agencies. And the hope is moving forward to connect all of those parcels into one pathways projects, and then along with that, connect to the outside. So the orchard trails in Richmond and expanding those connections that we have the ability to meet.
Thank you, Brad. John, same question to you. Since the pandemic, there has been a need for additional outdoor activities and a more walkable community. How do you see Chesterfield evolving over the next few years to meet these needs?
Thank you for the question. First of all, we're going to have to seek any federal funding that's out there for the money. Chesterfield currently is in a negative operating budget deficit. So I agree that the need is there. We definitely need it. But again, it all boils down to money. So we're gonna have to seek the money and continue, moving forward on making sure that pathways and sidewalks get put in the township. Unfortunately, nothing's been done in Chesterfield for 30, 40 years. So we're behind the 8 ball on that. But because nothing's been done, we're going to have to play catch up on that, and we will play catch up on it. It's going to take time. Rome wasn't built in a day, but I'm going to do everything necessary to secure funding, and I'm going to make sure that we, expand upon, the connection and, the sidewalks so people can get outdoors, enjoy, and, one of a primary concern and, a priority in the Speak administration is, I see kids out there all the time riding their bikes out in the street. It's a huge safety concern of mine, and I also see, people walking outside, whether it's seniors or individuals, and that's a huge concern. So that will be a top priority in the Speak administration to secure funding and to move forward and to play catch-up. It's going to take a while. It's not going to happen overnight, but we are definitely going to work on it. I promise you that. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Well, we've reached the end of our 2 questions, so now it's time for closing. And John, we'll start with you. Please finish with your 1-minute closing.
I'm John Spica, and I am running for supervisor. I'm asking for your vote on November 8th. I'm a neighbor you can trust and a leader you can count on. I love this township, the people in the township, and everything Chesterfield has to offer. It will be an honor and privilege to serve the residents of Chesterfield. In the Spica administration, it's Chesterfield first. I will always back the blue and support our men and women in blue to ensure they have the resources to keep our community safe. In Chesterfield, all of us need to take our blue jerseys off, our red jerseys off, and put our Chesterfield jerseys on and vote Spica for supervisor on November 8th for a brighter and better tomorrow. To sum it up, the board-appointed supervisor has been a total train wreck on Chesterfield and does not deserve to be elected to a seat he is unqualified to hold. There are stark differences between myself and the board-appointed supervisor. I believe in democracy, being fiscally responsible, transparency, and back in the blue. Public safety is a top priority of mine. I lead by example, and remember, leadership is an ability a person has or doesn't have and can't be taught. Speak up for supervisor. Thank you, and have a great evening. Buonasera.
Thank you, John. Brad, you have 1 minute for your closing.
Can I get a few more since he went over? He doesn't
Please
seem
begin.
to follow the rules, so. For a 3-year resident, he sure can speak about what the township hasn't done for 40 years. Been here 33 years. There's several projects that are underway, and I appreciate the appointment to the supervisor's position, and I do hope that I can retain it if the residents choose so. We've got several areas that are underway. We've recently entered into an agreement with the Anchor Bay Schools for a community center. We've expanded that. That'll be rolling out here in October. The children and the seniors will be, the parks and rec programs will be expand exponentially. We've done so many areas of cleanups through the drains. And the topic that the Back the Blue or the Public Safety Department has anything to worry about here, under my watch, they do not. Our Public Safety Department and all departments will be properly funded, financed, and operated to acceptable standards. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Brad. This concludes session number 2 this evening. I'd like to thank both candidates for attending this forum this evening, and please remember to vote on November 8th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, and welcome to the Anchor Bay Chamber of Commerce Meet the Candidates Forum. One note before we begin. The Anchor Bay Chamber of Commerce does not endorse any candidate appearing here this evening. The views and opinions of the candidates are not necessarily the views and opinions of the Anchor Bay Chamber of Commerce. My name is Eric Kademack, and I will be moderating this forum on behalf of the Chamber this evening. Tonight, we're hosting 5 sessions for elections affecting the Anchor Bay area. Our third session this evening is for Macomb County Commissioner, 2nd District. There is one 2-year term available, and we have 2 candidates running for this position. Now for some ground rules. Each candidate for these races were given an opportunity to appear here this evening. Each candidate is allowed a 3-minute introduction and opening statement. Each candidate will then be asked 2 questions relevant to the election and allowed 2 minutes to respond to each question. At the end of the session, the candidate will be permitted to give a 1-minute summary of their position. The sequence and order for the opening remarks will go in alphabetical order and rotate from there. We have with us tonight incumbent Phil Kraft. Opponent Michelle Merriweather did not respond to our invitation. So with that, let's begin. Phil, you have 3 minutes for your opening remark.
Thank you, Eric, and I'd like to thank the Anchor Bay Chamber for hosting this wonderful event tonight. My name is Phil Kraft. I am a resident of Chesterfield Township. I am 36 years old. I have lived here for 35 of those years. I am currently the county commissioner for what it will be District 2, which is Chesterfield, New Baltimore, Lenox, and New Haven. I've had the honor of serving in that position for the last 6 years now. On top of that, for my day job, I am a legislative aide for State Representative Pamela Hornberger, who I've worked that job for the last 6 years as well. Before that, I worked for Congresswoman Candace Miller for 5 years in her district office. And prior to that, Secretary of State Terry Lynn Land for about a year. So my background is a lot of government and politics. I went to Saginaw Valley got a degree in political science. I graduated out of Anchor Bay High School. I was the first class out of the school on County Line Road. And on top of all of those things, I am a proud Anchor Bay Chamber member. I am a Rotarian of the Anchor Bay Rotary, and I am also a member of the Community Mental Health Board, where I have been serving there for the last 5 years and the chair for the last year and a half or so. I live in Chesterfield, like I said, with my wife. We just celebrated our 5-year wedding anniversary on Friday, together for 10. My family has been here for a very long time. They own Drop Everything and Dance Studio on Gratiot for the last 15 years. My mom worked for the Anchor Bay School District, so to say that this is my home is an understatement. There are a lot of other candidates that I think are older than me, and I think I've outlasted all of them in the township. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Now, our candidate will have the opportunity to answer 2 questions provided by the chamber. Phil, you'll have 2 minutes to answer each question. Now, I know I said we'd be rotating in alphabetical order, but since you're the only one here, yeah, okay. Wanted to make sure you were up on that. So, Phil, your first question. What is the top priority or issue that needs to be addressed?
Thanks, Eric. In the world of being a county commissioner, infrastructure is something that we can have an effect on above and below, and I think that is probably the main factor right now. For us specifically, the board last year invested more money into roads than we ever have before, just with county dollars. That doesn't include state money, federal money, things like that. But our total county budget was $1.1 billion, and about a quarter of that went into roads. And with everything we're doing with underground infrastructure, it's great to have Candace Miller as a partner. As I said, I worked for her before, so our working relationship is top-notch, and everything she has planned is fantastic, and we're lucky to have the funds to help her out. The Board of Commissioners is even planning to use some ARPA funds that we received from the federal government, probably about $40 million to help with the underground infrastructure portion of it. So that's my main issue, but obviously being the chair of community mental health and everything that everyone has gone through for the last 2 years plus with the pandemic is forefront in my mind. And, 5 years ago when I went to that board, we were broke, we were running out of money, and now 5 years later, we have a full reserve, we have a full savings, and we can move forward and create programs to help folks deal with any issues that they may be having.
Thank you, Phil. Now the second question. What is your plan to make Macomb County a more business-friendly county?
Thanks again, Eric. I've always been brought up to know that government doesn't create jobs; they create the environment for jobs. So lower taxes and making the county a great place to be is the way to go. And I have a record of fighting against tax increases that I felt were unnecessary, things that they didn't necessarily need a tax increase but could have been funded through other means. I have sought to do that. I've pushed for that. When it comes to commissioner raises every 2 years, the Board of Commissioners have to vote on our salaries, and I fought against increases or been a proponent of minute increases, 1% in a time of 8% inflation, things like that. So trying to keep the budget level, trying to create that environment for businesses and folks to move here, because if you have lower taxes and you have that sort of environment, businesses will come, and that'll help grow your community. The folks will come because they work here. That'll help grow your community. And I think just creating that environment through, the budget is the way to go.
Thank you, Phil. Well, as quickly as we started, it's now time to end. So can you please finish with your 1-minute closing?
Sure, thanks, Eric. I feel like I've been up here for 5 minutes. But thank you to everybody. I've been honored to serve this community for the last 6 years, as I said, as county commissioner, and I would greatly love to continue that service. I don't see it as a job. I do see it as an act of community service, basically. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help. I can be an asset at every level of government because I've worked there. I have the connections there. I can find answers to your questions quickly. And I'm proud to be a resource for my home. This community basically made me who I am, and I want to give back, and that's why I do this every day. Sometimes I bang my head against the wall, but I know it's for my home, it's for my community, and it's where I want to be, and I know it's where a lot of other people want to be, and I just want to help make it the best that I can. Oh, I actually got the sign. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Phil. This concludes session number 3. Thank you to our candidate for attending this evening, and please remember to vote on November 8th. Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Anchor Bay Chamber of Commerce Meet the Candidates Forum. One note before we begin. The Anchor Bay Chamber of Commerce does not specifically endorse any candidate appearing here this evening. The views and opinions of the candidates are not necessarily the views and opinions of the Anchor Bay Chamber of Commerce. My name's Eric Hademak, and I will be moderating this forum on behalf of the Anchor Bay Chamber this evening. Tonight, we're hosting 5 sessions for elections affecting the Anchor Bay area. Our 4th session this evening is for state representative for the 63rd District. There is one 2-year term available, and we have 2 candidates running. So now for some ground rules. Each candidate for these races were given an opportunity to appear here this evening. Each candidate is allowed a 3-minute introduction and opening statement. Each candidate will then be asked 2 questions relevant to the election and allowed 2 minutes to respond to those questions. At the end of the session, each candidate will be permitted to give a 1-minute summary of their position. The sequence for opening remarks will start in alphabetical order and rotate from there. We have with us tonight Jay DeBoyer and Kelly Noland. So going in alphabetical order by last name, let's begin. Jay, you have 3 minutes for your opening comments.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Chamber, as well. My name is Jay DeBoyer. I'm running for the 63rd District State House race, which represents southern St. Clair County and Chesterfield and New Baltimore, most of Chesterfield. I'm currently the St. Clair County Clerk. Prior to that, I was the Clay Township Supervisor, and prior to that, I was the Clay Township Trustee. I'm also a small businessman. I have owned a business in the engineered lumber industry since the early 90s, frankly, save for a few years in the late 2000s when the economy did not really play well with the housing industry. I decided to get involved in politics first as a trustee in Clay Township, just to give back to the community. And that segued into a role as an appointment to fill a vacancy as the St. Clair County Clerk. I have 2 children, a 24-year-old daughter and a son who is 20. And now that they are both effectively grown adults, it's opened up my time a little more, and I decided to run for the 63rd House District just to take some civility perhaps back to Lansing. We do watch the goings on nationally and at the state level to some degree between the various political parties, and I think that there is a little bit of room for civility. I'm a conservative Republican. I believe in smaller government. I believe in lower taxes. I believe in fewer regulations, and I believe in individual liberty.
Thank you, Jay. Kelly, you have 3 minutes for your opening remarks.
Thank you, Eric. It was playing tricks with me. Hi, my name is Kelly Noland. I'm an Army veteran nurse and a Chesterfield resident since 2014. I have lived my entire life in and around this area, with the exception of my military service, which I started at the age of 17 after graduating from Imlay City High School. Go Spartans. I have a special needs son. He's 19 years old. He just graduated Lance Cruz North with cum laude, 4 honors. He has a 4-year scholarship for Lawrence Tech, and I want to thank the teachers of Lance Cruz that have done an awesome job with my son and the other students there. The reason why I am running for office is because I agree with Jay. There needs to be more civility in our legislation, because it's gotten down to high school antics, and everybody's really tired of the show now, and we need to move on and get our government working for us again. We need to move forward and let things just be and stop all the mad rhetoric, because it's not helping anybody at all, and everybody is so angry. And like Jay said, we need to bring some civility back to the legislating, and I will work across the aisle no matter who you are. As a nurse, I've had to work in situations where I'm not exactly in love with a doctor, but you're working toward the best outcome for that patient, and therefore you should take that also into legislating. I may not want to take you out to lunch, but if I'm working on something with you that's going to be beneficial to my community, I am going to darn sure make sure it gets done, looking out for my community and reaching across the aisle and working with anybody and everybody that I need to. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Each candidate will now have an opportunity to answer 2 questions provided by the chamber. Candidates, you will have 2 minutes to respond to each question. So going in opposite direction this time, Kelly, if elected, what standing committees are you interested in working on and why?
Well, Eric, that's positively easy for me. That would be Health and Human Services Committee. Because in St. Clair County in particular, there is a real need for mental health services. I only know of one domestic violence shelter that exists in Port Huron, and that's not even in the district. Runaway services, homeless shelters, there are so many needs that need to be addressed in my community and other communities surrounding it. When it's warm, all the homeless people like to come and pitch their tents in the state park up in Algonac and stuff, and then people complain, and the police will come in and clean them out, and 3 days later, they are right back in. So it's not dealing with the underlying issues of why are they homeless? What is the situation? You deal with that, you end the homeless situation, or the runaway situation, or the domestic violence situation. Putting what I call Band-Aids over bullet wounds is not going to help, and that really needs to change, especially in my district. So I would really focus on mental health services and the health and well-being of my community.
Thank you, Kelly. Jay, same question. If elected, what standing committees are you interested in working on and why?
Well, I'll start with one that is relatively obvious with my current position. I'm the St. Clair County Clerk. I've been a St. Clair County Clerk for 11 years. One of our, arguably in my opinion, probably our most important responsibility is the execution of our elections. And I think we can all agree that what we've witnessed over the last couple of cycles has been less than what I would say to be civil. The current legislature has one clerk that is a member of the legislature. And so therefore, ultimately what I'm getting at is I like to be on elections and ethics. I think a legislature that is passing election law with never executing an election, never, trying to meet deadlines, has a little bit to be desired. So that would be one of mine that I'm interested in. Secondly, I would be interested in natural resources. So to come back now maybe to my hometown, grew up in Clay Township, lived in Clay Township, Algonac my entire life. In my opinion, the most beautiful blue water, the most beautiful environment there is to reside, not only in the state, but perhaps in the country. I think that needs to be protected, and I think that the natural resources is a big deal and very important to what we strive to be as a community, whether it be from a tourist perspective or otherwise. Third, regulations and oversight, those kinds of things that directly impact businesses. Some of the crazy regulations, when I decided to run, the first 3 or 4 phone calls I received from people that were supporting me and excited were business owners that said, is there anybody that can help with this, that, or the other thing? I'm getting the runaround from a bureaucratic individual in Lansing. So those would probably be my 3 that I would be interested in.
Thank you, Jay. Now for our second question, and Jay, this goes to you. What are your plans to support local businesses in the 63rd District?
Well, I think that some of the conversations I've had since I've been on the campaign with business owners is first, their inability to find employees. It used to be, I'm having a hard time finding good employees. Now I'm just having a hard time finding an employee. I think that we need to spend a little time focused on, skilled trades as opposed to just college. I think we need to look a little bit at investing in that, which would help. Additionally, regulation directly impacts small business. Supply chain issues directly impact small business. And if we could get out of the way as government, if we could step to the side and let business do what they do best, rather than believing that we are the experts, and when I say we, I mean the government, I think that those things are going to make a much more beneficial environment for small business in our community.
Thank you, Jay. Kelly, same question. What are your plans to support the local businesses in the 63rd District?
Well, Eric, tourism is our #1 industry in the 63rd District, and most businesses are seasonal. And what I would do is I would advocate to have our Great Lakes protected, because that is the core of our tourism industry in District 63. PFAS cleanup, keeping the water safe and clean for people to play in, boat in, fish in, and for us to drink. All very important here in the district. Small businesses are usually not big box businesses that we have in the area. We have smaller businesses, mom and pop businesses and things like that, that have been hit really hard during the pandemic. And like Jay was saying, there is a problem with people finding an employee wanting to even work, offering really good pay, benefits and things like that, and people are just not wanting to work. We have to discover the reason why they're so dissatisfied. Maybe it's pay's not high enough and it's not good enough for a living wage. These are things that need to be investigated. But the thing that I would support is definitely expanding business practices if we could, not having a big box people come in. I want to preserve the rural beauty of our area. What I'm saying is supply economic stimulus with tax cuts or rebates or grants through small businesses to redevelop small town areas that may have fallen into disrepair or disuse because of the pandemic, and just to revitalize downtown areas. That's what I would do.
Thank you, Kelly. Well, time flies when you're having fun, so as quickly as began, it's time to end. So starting with Kelly, can you please finish with your 1-minute closing?
1-minute closing. Okay. Like I said, I'm an Army veteran nurse. I have a special needs son. I've been married 20 years. And the thing that I stand for is integrity and honesty in my office. When I win, I anticipate winning. Jay, sorry about that, my friend, but I do. And the reason being is because I am not a politician. Jay's been around here for 11 years. He has a very large political footprint. There are many things I could throw at him right now, but I'm not going to. Suffice it to say that I know that I'm a better candidate for District 63. I may not have the political experience, Jay, but that also means that I can learn. And yes, I will make mistakes, but that does not mean I'm already established and I already have friends or dark money, funding my campaign or anything like that. Mine's totally grassroots and union organized.
Thank you, Kelly. Jay, please finish with your 1-minute closing.
Again, Jay DeBoyer, 63rd House District. The first thing is that I chose to become a public servant by choice, not out of necessity. I've been a small businessman my entire life. I became a trustee when I was a small businessman. I became a township supervisor when I was a small businessman. I became a county clerk when I was a small businessman. And I'm now running for state house as a small businessman. I'll be very, very clear. I do not need the job. I do want the job. I love my community. My family's been here for over 100 years. I do this 100% as a commitment to my community. My track record speaks for itself. Republican or Democrat alike, if you talk to the Michigan Association of County Clerks, they'll tell you where I have stood and where I stand. And I just ask that you think about experience, you think about integrity, and you think about intent and desire when you make your decision on who you're going to vote for in the 63rd.
Thank you, Jay. This concludes session number 4. Thank you both candidates for attending this evening, and please remember to vote on November 8th. Thank you. Good evening, and welcome to the Anchor Bay Chamber of Commerce Meet the Candidates Forum. One note before we begin. The Anchor Bay Chamber of Commerce does not specifically endorse any candidate appearing here this evening. The views and opinions of the candidates are not necessarily the views and opinions of the Anchor Bay Chamber of Commerce. My name is Eric Hademak, and I'm moderating this forum on behalf of the Chamber. Tonight, we are hosting 5 sessions for elections affecting the Anchor Bay area. Our 5th and final session this evening is for State Senate 12th District. There is one 4-year term available for this position, and we have 2 candidates running. Each candidate for these races was given an opportunity to appear here tonight. Each candidate will be allowed a 3-minute introduction and opening statement. Each candidate will then be asked 2 questions relevant to the election and allowed 2 minutes to respond to those questions. At the end of each session, the candidate will be permitted to give a 1-minute summary of their position. The sequence for opening remarks will start in alphabetical order and then rotate from there. We have with us tonight Pamela Hornberger. Opponent Kevin Hertel is not attending this evening. So going in alphabetical order by last name, and since you're our only candidate, this will make it very simple for you. Pam, would you please give us your 3-minute opening?
Sure, I'm not sure it'll be 3 minutes, but I am Pamela Hornberger. I am currently the state representative from Chesterfield in New Baltimore, and then I have a big piece of St. Clair County all the way up past I-69 into Canokia Township. So it's an interesting district, pretty suburban and then very rural. Very quickly it gets very rural. It's been an honor to serve as a state rep for the past 3 terms. And like you said, I'm currently running for the new 12th District State Senate seat, which is a beautiful seat that wraps all the way around Lake St. Clair from the Grosse Points in Wayne County all the way out to Harson's Island in St. Clair County. And it includes, I think, the couple communities that don't touch the water would be Mount Clemens, part of Clinton Township, and Harper Woods. So we've been knocking doors. It's a great district. I am currently the Speaker Pro Tem in the State House, so second in command of leadership, which is not much, but a whole lot. I run the rostrum every day, pretty interesting. And I am currently, for the 2nd term in a row, the education chair of the House Education Committee. I'm a former teacher. I taught school in the East China schools for 23 years. So the Education Committee is my wheelhouse. I also served on the Lance Cruz Board of Education for 6 years prior to running for state rep. So I do have a strong education background. And then just family-wise, I grew up in a family business. My parents started their business nearly 50 years ago in 1973. It's an industrial tool supply, so I've witnessed all of the things that mandates and regulations can do to a small business, and so I'm very passionate about helping the small businesses in our community, as well as working on education issues. So I guess that's a good introduction for now.
Thank you. So now, Pamela, you'll have an opportunity to answer 2 questions provided by the Chamber, and you'll have 2 minutes to respond to each question. So since you're currently holding an elected position as a state rep, we're going to ask a kind of specific question to those type of positions. So, going in opposite direction, it's still you. What legislation have you introduced to make Michigan more business-friendly?
Well, I'm sure there's more than one bill, but the one that I can recall off the top of my head, immediately within a month or so, once we could get the bill in our hand, when I was elected and took office in 2016, we enrolled a bill that would repeal part of the Michigan income tax. It was a promise that was made when the income tax was raised under Jennifer Granholm, and it was supposed to have been repealed by now, or rolled back by now, and it wasn't. And so I enrolled a bill to do that in order to give families and people in Michigan the tax relief that they were promised years ago. And then, you know, as far as legislation goes, I have been a strong advocate for tax relief and tax cuts and anything that would help families and small businesses be able to, you know, cut through red tape and keep more money in their pockets, because I think that families, people running their households and small businesses know how best to spend their money, and that government shouldn't be telling them how to do that.
Thank you, Pamela. So now for the second question. What is your top priority or issue that needs to be addressed?
I think the top issue that needs to be addressed is the economy in the state of Michigan. And we can put different things in place to work on inflation, but we do need to work on the economy. And like I said, putting money back in people's pockets so that they can keep more savings, keep more money for themselves, and spend it on what they think will benefit their family or their small business. We've had bills enrolled recently that would have just fixed a federal issue that affected small business owners and how they file their taxes, and it would have saved over 170,000 businesses, over $190 million, and it would not have taken one dime out of our state coffers. It was a fix that we needed to do for federal reporting, and it was vetoed by the governor. So we've time and time again as a state legislature looked at things to help small businesses that would also not impact the state greatly, and we've run into brick walls. So I'd love to continue working on those issues. We need to work on infrastructure as well. I worked with Candace Miller to she needed $72 million at the time, and now with inflation, it's more, so she's going to have to cut projects, but I worked to get her and our Public Works Department $72 million to upgrade the pump stations and fix the combined sewer overflow so that we're keeping Lake St. Clair clean. It's something that all of the communities that surround the lake benefit from, and all of the people in Southeast Michigan and in Michigan. Over 4 million people draw their drinking water from Lake St. Clair, so that's one of the issues that we also worked on as far as passing legislation that's, good for families and good for our area.
Okay, thank you, Pamela. So we've reached the end. 2 questions go by very quick. So would you like to, would you like to give your 1-minute closing?
Yeah, I guess I'll just, continue talking. I would love to continue serving the people of our communities as a state senator. I believe there are more issues that we need to work on. I believe that my expertise, especially in the education area, when we look at how the pandemic impacted our students, we have students that have nearly 2 years of learning loss. We have third graders, well, everyone who's tested this year, but third graders who have, are 30 years, they are so far behind. The last time they were that far behind, it was 30 years ago. So they have tremendous amount of reading and math learning loss, and I think it's something that we need to keep working on at the state level as far as empowering parents to make decisions on how to best make that learning loss up for their students. So being the next state senator, I would love to keep working on some of those education issues as well.
Thank you, Pamela.
Thank you.
This concludes session number 5 this evening. I'd like to thank all the candidates for being here this evening and wish all of them the best of luck in the upcoming election. Thank you also to the Anchor Bay Chamber of Commerce for hosting this important forum this evening. On behalf of the Anchor Bay Chamber of Commerce, my name is Eric Kanemak, and thank you for tuning in this evening. And please don't forget to vote on November 8th.